with this session as the picture has been painted and the introduction of this story has been laid out. Just a few minutes with two women of faith. And the story for Naomi. She has her daughter-in-law with her and she's come back home. But it is still a fact that life has really, really, really become bitter for her. You know, but it's interesting. She says that life is bitter. Call me Mara. But she hasn't become a bitter person. Let's talk about willing to work in this session. We're in chapter 2 now of the book of Ruth. And so let's read, willing to work. Now there was a wealthy and influential man in Bethlehem named Boaz, who was a relative of Naomi's husband, Elimelech. One day Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, let me go out into the harvest fields to pick up the stalks of grain left behind by anyone who is kind enough to let me do it. Naomi replied, all right, my daughter, go ahead. So Ruth went out to gather grain behind the harvesters. And as it happened, she found herself working in the field that belonged to Boaz, the relative of her father-in-law, Elimelech. Willing to work. What a word. And what a thing to do. You know, I remember when I first got overseas in the military, and boy, I'm just a kid, and I'm by myself, I don't know anybody. And I remember just kind of lying there in the bed when I first got there, and I put the cover over my head, and I went to sleep, you know, and of course, I don't know, 12, 15-hour difference, and I was just under that cover, and I'm going, Lord, please don't let me be here. Please, I just stayed under that cover so long. Please, please, let this all be a nightmare. I'm not here. I'm not overseas. You know? I finally took that cover off. You know, it is what it is. Son, get up, get moving, get active, meet some people, get around, start getting out, because you're here. And you can see this experience. It's almost as if they've been there for a while. You know, and they're going to have to try to make it. And this young woman says, okay, let me go do some things. Let me go see if I can pick up. Now, I can pick up after some folks. Now, the law, okay, the law, all right. In the law, it was required in law. You know, we talk about, in our government, we talk about provisions for persons, you know, the benefits that we have by government. Well, God, in his law, he wrote that when people harvested, they were to leave things. They were to leave the edges of the acreage, the edges of the harvest for persons who were in need. That was God's way of providing, making sure it was instituted under his theocracy, you know, where God operates, where God is the governing authority. In his theocracy, that people who couldn't provide for themselves, that those who had it all, the big ballers and shot callers, it was by law that they would leave the edges of their crops there so that people could come in and glean it. Well, this Moabitess, who wasn't a Jew, she knew about that. And she said, well, let me go out and, you know, see what I can do. And Naomi agreed. And so when she goes out, you know, having this willingness to work, when she goes out, it just so happens that it's the harvest of it's a harvest and a acreage and land and produce of a person who happens to be in a close relationship with Elimelech, Naomi's husband. It just so happens to be. Now, I said that with tongue in cheek because that's just the way that our God operates as this story begins to unfold. But look, there had to be a willingness not to be in a pity party. There had to be a willingness not to just sulk like a victim. There had to be a willingness to say, let me get up from here and let me start doing something. It is in that kind of spirit. You know, she's not just looking there at her mother-in-law, but it's in that kind of spirit. Let me do something. Let me get involved. Let me start operating. And look, not just do anything, but let me go and see if I can come by some sustenance. I got a little plan. I'll just get started. Boy, if you've got a little plan, God's got a great plan. He's already had it. Father, we thank you. Just a willing